I check it like you were bowling it, yeah? I really don't mind.
You hit me once, I hit you back.
He's bowling like my Auntie Annie when she'd had too much sherry to drink.
Played over my head, then I set fire.
मैंने कहा बेटा बेटा होता है और बाप बाप होता है.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Pai Chuckers Cricket Podcast. Cricket is back and the wait was well worth it. It was a damp start to the first test between England and West Indies, but once the rain stayed away, we had an exciting match on our hands. Going into the fifth day with both teams still in it, we couldn't have asked more in cricket's comeback game. It was test match cricket at its best. And England are now down one test match in the three test match series. Before we discuss why we think they lost, what we expect for the next match, let's credit our very own Shivam for being the only one amongst the four of us to pick West Indies as the winner. Shivam, what went wrong for England and how come you got it right?
Yeah, everything that could go wrong went wrong. I only based it on the premise that there is no Joe Root with all of his batting experience, and England is pretty brittle batting order we've seen since Ashes. They've had collapses. They lost to West Indies in the Caribbean, so that was one thing. Then I think they were very, very confused. They dropped Stuart Broad, although that wasn't the reason actually, if you analyze, that cost them the game. But essentially, it started from there. You went in with a confused mindset, a new captain, and West Indies played brilliantly. There is no doubt to it, man. They were terrific.
Stuart Broad, Khalid, do you think that was the main reason that kind of kicked off the decline for England in the match?
Yeah, if I look at from batting, bowling, and fielding, let's take fielding. From a fielding perspective, they drop a couple of close, tough chances as well, which may not have, in a way, could have impact. It did impact the result, but it could happen any day. What I think was, if you look at it from a bowling perspective now, then from a bowling perspective, they have Jeffrey Archer, Wood, and Jimmy Anderson. And if you look at from a West Indies perspective, last 2 years, I think West Indies, now you realize, have been the better side. As a bowling side, they have been better with their past history of 2 years. And if you look at it from a batting, as Shivam said, if they don't have Root, then it is as good or as bad as West Indies. And in the first innings, West Indies out-bowled England, and that is where, according to me, they lost the match.
Well, I think it's a fair point. Sumit, do you think that the match was lost with England's first innings, with England not batting well?
Although, a first innings total is always very important, of course, but I don't think they lost the match right away. In the last day as well, the match was still open for all possible three results. But the fact that West Indies replied very well and came good in their first innings itself, I think that's where probably a match sort of shifted a little more towards them and not just the England's first innings, although that was very crucial as well.
I'll tell you a very interesting things I hear. We had discussed in our last podcast that third innings typically tends to be the highest scoring, but they missed out, I think, by 3-4 runs. And essentially, I tend to agree with a lot of people there are a lot of people who are saying that it wasn't the 200 runs in the first innings that cost them the match. England were essentially 140 ahead in the second innings and 3 down. And from there to just give a target of 200 is where I think they did typically what an Indian side would do in Australia or England, not score and think you are ahead. That doesn't happen. You need to score.
I'll put my hands up and say that, I'm the one who kind of, totally shat on the West Indies batting lineup in the last episode. But I would say that that England, they did not perform up to par on the first day of the match or in the first innings of the match. But more importantly, West Indies batsmen showed up when it was important. That was the real difference between the two teams. Yes, the West Indies bowled well. You expected of them. And I'm very glad that they did it on a big stage. And nobody can say that, you just bowled well in the West Indies and nobody else, the world didn't notice. these guys came to England in the first Test match back, and they really put in a good performance. But it's those batsmen, who I thought none of them would look good to score a 50 or 100, and multiple guys put their hands up and contributed when it mattered.
We did not want Chase in the team. He scored. We did not. Dowrich, we were doubtful that they should play Joshua. Dowrich scored. Blackwood, I don't think anybody expected. He scored a match-winning run.
Right. One other aspect about England's loss, Vivek, to cut you there, was also the fielding. Although, of course, it's very important to take your catches and do not miss runouts. The 2 catches and the runout probably costed them the game, at least in the fifth day, definitely. So, although one of that was a no ball, it probably wouldn't have mattered, but it still need to take catches. So I guess, sure, the impact was West Indies batting and England batting not doing as well. But I guess you'll have to, also take into account how fielding was very important at least in the 5th day, and it turned the table around, or at least in West Indies' favor.
Apart, if we sidestep from the 3 scales, guys, how important do you think was the outside issues which were playing in just giving those West Indies that resolve that, what we need to do in this test? Do you guys think that that played a part? Because I felt just with their presence on the field, the whole movement of Black Lives Matters added a little extra, resolve to their performance, West Indies.
I remember you commenting as well. You said at a point in time that Blackwood looks determined to take this through. I think he was batting at 35-40, I think, at that time, when you had a message that Blackwood seems determined. So yes, they were determined, but to be honest, what I feel is real test will be the second test for West Indies. If they can keep up that performance and intensity, then I think they're serious, because test cricket and West Indies, you know how it has been for last few years.
I really think that Phil Simmons deserves some kudos for this, because West Indies teams in the past just seemed lost when they travelled. Whereas Phil Simmons here seems to have done a good job. I know they had a month, but it seems like he got that team in order. That looked like a test match batting lineup. Those guys were looking to grit it out, and full marks to him, even though he was facing some criticism before the match.
To be fair, people were also saying, even Jason Holder acknowledged today that he hasn't seen Blackwood batting in the domestic circuit ever. And but his numbers speak for themselves, which I doubt they do. I mean, they're sub 30s or mid 30s at max. And they were missing Hetmeyer and Bravo. Had Hetmeyer and Bravo travelled, he said Blackwood may not even have been in the squad. So that tells you how well Simmons and Holder have done in this 1 month.
A lot of people have been talking a lot about the captaincy of Stokes, and saying probably was it a right decision to bat first? Was it a right decision to drop abroad? I guess they did see glimpses of him doing actually pretty well.
I think it's a good point. I'm not trying to point fingers as Stoke as the on-field captain. I think he did his job where he had to. What I really find a little bit strange is the way they're all standing up for their selections. And obviously Stokes, as the captain for that match, had responsibility for picking the final 11 along with the coach. And, he stuck to his guns that picking Wood over Broad was the right decision. And, nobody asked him in that final press conference whether picking Denley made any sense. How does a guy who...
I think Dobell was missing. Hi, what next? Second test. How do you see Root comes back? Your favorite Joe Denley, what does he do?
I think it's obvious, right? Though the coach was still defending him in press conferences till yesterday, I think he has to go. How do you justify dropping Crawley? He's already done his job. So has Sibley.
I read somewhere Crawley hasn't done his job. He just scored 75 when he should have buckled down and scored 100 and 150. But Denley did his job, that he played 70 balls when he had to in the second innings.
Yeah, but he's the Denchery. He should have played 100, I guess. Yeah. So before we kind of dig into what the team should be for the next match, Shivam, any idea what this ground's been like? Where they're playing Old Trafford?
So they're playing Old Trafford. Test starts on 16th. So typically there have been a lot of test matches, around 70 something test matches, 78 I believe, and this is one of the main four venues that are there in England. I think, but in last 10 years, I was very surprised. And you will also be only five test matches at Old Trafford. In last 4 years, only three test matches. And what I have seen is that there has been only one draw out of that. That was the Ashes in 2013. And post that, what has happened is that whoever has won the toss, typically, has won except for when India decided to collapse after winning the toss. So three times there has been a win the toss, bat first, win the game type of situation. So that is what primarily happens on the ground. It is expected to be a good wicket with a bit of assistance for pace. Jimmy, Broad, and Moeen Ali, again, our favorite Moeen Ali, features in the top wicket takers. But he's not
Coming
in the
back
squad.
to it.
So let's see.
And it's Jimmy's home ground.
Yeah, Jimmy has an end named to him, right?
Yeah,
There
he's
is
going
a
to be
James
bowling
Anderson
from that end.
Yeah, apparently
Yeah.
does he bowl from that end, or he bowls from the other end because of the wind? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it will depend on the wind on the day.
Yeah,
Broad was advertising him on his social
So
media
Broad,
account and
Broad and
showing all
Jimmy
of
are a
that
couple. Man.
in
Broad and Jimmy are a
Old
couple,
Trafford.
eternal couple.
So moving on then to what we think the side should be for England. Obviously, I think there's more debate with the English side. Can we look at Root walking into the side and displacing Denley as a given, or do you guys have takes on who you think will make way for Root?
I think it has to be Denley, but you never know with Ed Smith. Yeah, you never know. I think that 30-second clip of George Dobell that we saw last week on Polite Inquiries, that kind of actually made sense. Yeah, what makes him pick Butler and Denley? And Denley, who averages 29 in 15 Test matches, not even 100. How can you play that guy at number 3? I don't know.
And he even said that he wears his pajamas and he's in his fan club and things like that. I remember.
Yeah.
But to be fair, not to be fair, but the point that Ed Smith makes, or the case for Denley, is that he plays out 100 balls. It is the role which he's given, he's performing that. So
I'll tell you something, Vivek. When they drop Stuart Broad, or rather play Wood instead of Broad, they say we're looking at Ashes, we're looking at India. Then you play a 34-year-old at number 3 when you have a 22-year-old scoring 76. I mean, it is all mixed up. I think there is trouble brewing with the kind of interview that Broad gave. I don't know, and something is brewing.
And his against Denley is that he's 34, and England team is planning for the tours to Australia and India, and apparently he doesn't play spin well. And if he's not playing spin well, Ashwin and Lyon will eat him. I feel Root has to come into the team for Root.
For Delhi.
Root has to come in place of Delhi.
Yeah, I don't think.
What do you reckon?
Option.
Yeah, I think any conjecture otherwise trying to state the case for Denley is absolute rubbish. Again, this is after I made the claim that the West Indies batting lineup was rubbish. So, take everything I say with a pinch of salt. But I just don't see how you could drop him. Some people have said that Pope might be the guy who goes, but that guy plays a role at number 6. And he does seem to have a more aggressive and attacking game, which is suited for that position. Why would you move Denley down the order or remove a young player who looks like, he's the future for that batting lineup?
Yeah.
To tell you a very telling stat, somebody had posted on Twitter today that Misbah ul Haq post his 35th birthday scored 5,000 odd international test runs. Drop Delhi at your own peril.
Everybody is Misbah ul Haq.
So maybe they just picked him too early, England.
So you reckon that Delhi goes, Root comes in, Root bats at 4, Crawley moves up to 3 because Crawley is opened, right?
Yep.
So in his first toss, he's not batted one down though. He's batted.
He's batted in test cricket.
Opening is as good as one down, Sumer. I mean, you're not a batsman, I believe, so you wouldn't know.
He's already played a test.
It is as good.
Yeah.
Sure.
He's already played a test.
I would definitely not know that.
Yeah, top order would know opening is as good as number 3.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So let's look at the bowling lineup. I think we pretty much can agree on the top 6 for England. But the
so
bowling
Butler
lineup
plays, right? Butler stays.
I don't see. I mean, I think that dropping Delhi is a big
how will
move for
England
Ed Smith
win?
already.
How will England win?
Okay, in an ideal world, Sai, who would you have picked up as your wicket keeper if you had, if you were, there was no ad in the horizon?
I think it has to be between Folks and Bairstow. Bairstow's Test record is far superior to Butler. Granted, he hasn't scored recently, but he's a quality bat in Test cricket, and he's proven. Folks is also a smaller track record, looked good in his early matches. I'd pick between those two. I think Josh Butler is there just on the basis of that. Root was missing the first Test. They wanted their vice captain to be someone who's experienced, and they have a lot of respect as Butler, the senior limited overs player. That's it.
Very true. I think Butler, this is his last chance. I personally believe that this Test will make or break Butler again.
Just 36 Tests too many, huh? He's
Yeah,
already
yeah.
on 41, I guess.
36
Let him
tests.
play IPL. Let him play one day T20. That is okay. So in the bowling, do you see any changes?
I personally feel that one of the three pacers has to make way for Stuart Broad. I honestly don't know what the pitch looks like yet, but I'm assuming that just for the balance of that side, they don't need two outright fast bowlers whose strength is not moving the ball. So I think Stuart Broad should come in. If you ask me who to remove, I would probably remove Mark Wood, just based on the numbers after the first Test.
Again, very interesting that there was a stat that we saw today that Mark Wood seems it and swings it the least among all the pacers that England has in England. He only has pace as per that stat. So I think Wood needs to make way also. Sumer Khare, what do you think?
If I look at it, Wood, I would say, why not? If you look at it from a long-term perspective, I'm not just looking from a West Indies perspective, West Indies Test series perspective. If you look at it, like we have 6 Tests back to back, or 6 or 4, or whatever it is. I was not very. I mean, for me, Jimmy Anderson last Test was totally off. And if you ask me, I think if he had performed up to his level, West Indies should have won the first Test. So I may go for
England.
Sorry. England should have won. For me, if it was me, I would go for Broad for Jimmy and Vokes for Wood. I would go with that.
I couldn't have agreed with you more. But taking on from what you said about Jimmy's performance, also about his workload, please understand, he is 37 years old. Will he play the second Test because he will definitely probably have to play the third one as well. Does it make a good case for Chris Vokes? Darren Gough also mentioned that they should get in Vokes as well into the mix.
Ground, Jimmy has 28 wickets with an average of 20 something, low 20. And in 7 games, 28 wickets, highest wicket taker on this ground. I don't see Jimmy being dropped or rested at all.
Absolutely. How
with
can
series
you
on the
even
line,
dream of
yaar.
it? Yeah,
Series, would you rest
absolutely.
Bumrah?
What are they saving him for? He doesn't play ODIs. He doesn't play T20s. What are you saving him for?
Hasn't played for 7 months.
Yeah.
That's fair. But is just on the performance of his last Test, I know it won't happen. That's Broad would come in place of Wood. But if it was me just looking at how Jimmy performed last Test match, I would just make the changes, get in Vokes and get in Broad in place of Wood.
Also see how things turn out on the last day. I thought that Jimmy would come in and at least have some swing, if not conventional reverse. Nothing was happening. He was just out of options. I'm not saying he's he's obviously touted as the best bowler to bowl in Old Trafford.
I'll tell you, Sai, you had some stat on this being least swing friendly conditions ever in England, something like that. What was that?
Yeah, so thanks to Crick Wiz for all of these stats. But as per them, this match was in the top 5 for the least amount of lateral movement in an English Test match since 2006.
You got to cut Jimmy some slack, man.
Yeah, this is the least amount of swing in a match for Jimmy in England since 2016.
In Jimmy we trust.
Right. How do you account for Jason Holder? He also requires a lot of some assistance from the pitch. He's also a similar. Not a similar kind of a bowler, but he is also like a person who is skillful and so on and so forth. He got a sixer, right?
I just think that I'm not arguing on the merits of like Holder versus Anderson, but I just feel like you can't drop Jimmy, especially in a do or die test, because essentially both the tests are do or die. So I don't see him dropping.
Which then brings you to one more question: is that would Old Trafford be the Old Trafford of what we know, or will it sort of, because there's no saliva, people are trying to not pander to managing the ball so much? Is that a reason also?
No, these are fresh wickets, Sumer. I don't think it will be a reason. Old Trafford will be a good wicket. But historically, it has been a high-scoring ground. There have been high scores. But with these two teams, again, I don't think... Crickwiz gave another stat side that as per their average runs that must have been scored in the last game, as per whatever the balls that were bowled, they were lesser by both the teams. So both the teams underscored. So their batting kind of let them down a bit, even though West Indies scored a 300 plus. But still, there were more runs on the offering there. So I think it will be a good pitch. I personally believe Jimmy should play, Broad should come in for Wood. So we have to agree on the 11 now. So Denley goes out, Root comes in. What else?
I'm for Wood. Wood comes in for
Wood goes out rather.
Wood goes out for Broad. That's what I.
Broad.
Same.
Yeah.
So that's our 11.
I guess that's what will happen as well.
Yeah.
That's what will happen. Yeah, correct.
On the West Indies front, you see any changes? I would never have thought we will discuss England changes for 10-15 minutes and West Indies will take only 5 minutes. I'm sure West Indies we won't make a lot of changes. What do you reckon?
Well, if you're nitpicking, you can say that John Campbell didn't look up to the mark in the first.
He's injured match. Also. Nah, poor guy is injured. I think he will not play.
A convenient way to not play him now. Yeah.
There is no news that he's not available for the second test.
I mean, there is no news or anything. England haven't announced their squad.
Yeah, true.
Short turnaround.
No, but I guess there are news, for example, of a person getting a scan done or something like that between, especially after an injury. I don't think that I couldn't find anything.
I mean, if let's leave aside the injury part of it.
Yeah.
Do you think that there will be any changes given from a load management perspective? You have these big fast bowlers from West Indies who might need to be managed.
This is their chance. Momentum is with them. I think they should go all out this test if they have to, because I mean they win the series, right? They can rest whoever they want in the last game. Yeah.
I agree. They should play Gabriel. They should play. If anything, if they want to sort of preserve some, maybe Kemar Roach can stay out and Kemar Holder can come in.
No, man, don't be obsessed with Kemar. Time will come, man. He's too young.
No, but you're. I agree with you on Gabriel playing, on Alzari playing, and the fact that Kemar did not do actually anything. And I had my hopes on him.
He was your pick. Denley was mine, but Denley bit better than Kemar Roach.
Come on. Just because you have Ed Smith on your side doesn't mean anything.
Vivek, do you any thoughts on the bowling lineup? You see any changes at all from the West Indies?
I don't think so. I think they will go with the same side. And depending on the conditions, probably they may add another spinner, but for whom? I think the whole lineup performed, or they did what they were asked to. So I don't see any changes from a West Indies side barring an injury.
Talking about spin, another thing came to my mind that Joe Root coming back adds another option to England.
Oh yeah, that's what they were missing from the first test, I guess.
Yeah, of course.
Root the off spinner.
And Joe Denley could not leg spin.
So West Indies.
But I have a thought, Sai. You talked about Campbell first. Isn't it time to maybe also try Joshua?
That's
he's
exactly
not even
what I
in the
was
squad,
getting at. Oh, squads, they're all traveling together. What does a squad matter? They can just move.
Yeah, what does it matter? They're in the bubble.
Yeah.
And you don't change a winning combination unless there is an injury. I don't think it doesn't look good.
No, but what would you do strategically?
Unless you're Virat Kohli, obviously, you don't change a winning
combination. So clearly the MS Dhoni way of playing the unchanged side should continue here, right?
I don't think it's MS Dhoni way. It is probably just the... Yeah. But
MS Dhoni way would be you lose a test match, you still continue with the same guys, lose another test match, lose 8 test matches, continue with the same guys.
And blame the process.
Yeah.
So
So
I think
West Indies remains the same.
yeah, it's pretty clear that no drastic changes to the West Indies lineup, which is as you said, a surprise.
Yes.
Yep.
So what next? You want to do the pick of the couple of picks of each one of us from each teams?
Yeah, let Shivam. Why don't you go first, both on who you're
We
picking
can copy.
as well as which team will win.
I don't think I'll risk picking Joe Denley this time. Uh, I think I have a feeling, I don't know why, but I want to pick Butler. I want to pick
It's
Butler.
not IPL.
Yeah. Okay, I'll not pick Butler here. I'll pick Joe Root and I'll pick Jimmy Anderson. I'll pick the obvious
I
one.
know what your formula was in your fantasy leagues when we used to come third.
Yeah.
But he never used to win.
I never
He
used to
never
win. So Joe Root and Jimmy Anderson from me from England, and from the West Indies side, I think it will be Braithwaite, the opener, who will score this time. And again, I'll go with Gabriel here. I like that guy. He was the man of the match the first game. So Gabriel and Braithwaite, and Jimmy and Joe Root.
And who will win?
No,
we'll
let's
come
leave
to that. We'll come to
Leave
that.
Yeah.
We'll come to that.
Okay.
Man, your picks.
I guess for England, I'll pick Stokes, and I wish Broad plays. Then I'll pick Broad. If not, then I would.
No.
No.
There is no if not, dude.
Yeah, there's
I
no
picked
if
Broad
then.
the last time. He didn't play.
Okay, I'll pick Stokes and Broad. I'll pick Stokes and Broad from England. I'll pick Braithwaite and Holder for West Indies. I wanted to pick Shy House, but I think Braithwaite has a better chance.
He'll name 22 players
don't
and then he'll
name
say,
him,
I
yeah.
told you I had picked
Yeah.
this guy.
I just
Come on,
picked
don't
two.
hedge.
Hedge your bets. Only
Yeah.
two. That's it. Yeah.
Sai, how
Vivek?
about you? Okay,
All right.
Vivek.
Yeah.
Whoever.
Okay. For me, I think from West Indies, Holder has to be there. And apart from that, Gabriel performed really well in the last Test match. But I just feel I'm not very confident with him giving back-to-back performances. So probably I would go with Roshan Chase. I really liked the way he played in the last Test match. So I would go with Roshan Chase and Holder. And from an England perspective, I would go with Stokes and Root.
Clearly, you were doing akkad bakkad with
Not
West
Dom
Indies.
Best.
Yeah, sure. If it was in Saurashtra.
Well, so is Roshan Chase.
So it's Root and who from England? Correct?
So,
Stokes.
Root and
Stokes.
Stokes. Fair
so
enough.
that's
How about
exactly who. Yeah, that's exactly who I'm picking for. For England. Honorable mention Jimmy, just like Sumair gives an honorable mention. So for West Indies, I'll go with Holder again because he's obviously does so much for their team. And the last slot is a little bit tough because I want to say Gabriel, but I picked him last time and I think it's tough.
this is the
to
high scoring
match him.
ground. This is a high
Yeah.
scoring.
So I think Shea Hope
Has to come good, right?
Yeah, he has to come good. And I just the way I was predicting in the first Test match is that I was expecting the West Indies to collapse in the first innings. They didn't. In the second innings, they didn't. So whoever scored in the first innings, I'm like, look at their average. There's no way they're going to score in the second innings. Unfortunately, then the guys who didn't score in the first innings, then they lived up to beyond their average in the second innings. So
Rally round
my
the
guess
West
is that
Indies.
it's Shea Hope's. Yeah, it's Shea Hope's chance.
So Hope and Holder.
Yep.
So what was it for you, Shiva? Again, Braithwaite you said, and
Braithwaite and Gabriel, yeah. I like.
Gabriel. Yeah. Okay.
Who's going to win, Shivam? Call it.
Oh my God! Why should I go first, yeah?
Okay, I'll go first. We'll go.
Yeah.
We'll go the other way. We'll go the
Yeah.
other way.
Okay.
Yeah. So I pick England. I have no confidence in my pick. I'm just thinking about India series. Usually, when India plays, even if we win the first test, somehow we
can't
definitely
get it
lose
out.
the second.
Can't get it
Yeah.
out.
So I just can't imagine that they're going to lose again, England.
Okay, the newcomer Vivek. This is the first time for you. Come on.
For me, I feel if Root scores, England win.
No.
No, there's no if.
There's
There's
no
no
if.
if.
I think Root will score and England will win.
That's right.
Do you have Root? You have
No.
Root, right?
No.
Yeah, I have.
Oh,
So
did you?
that means that say in England will win.
Yeah, so he's saying England will win.
Sumer, how about you?
I would pick England.
You know what? I'll tell you what
Please.
I will tell you. England will win, and I'll go on to say, England, if bat first, England will win by more than 100 runs. Is what I feel. It will be a spanking from for West Indies.
Talking to Shiva.
Sorry?
Who are you speaking to?
I just was on the phone with Dobell a couple of hours back. That's it. Nothing else.
Okay.
Great. Looking forward to the next test. Like and
Yeah.
subscribe as always, and we'll be back after the test match. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Fun.
I check it like you racing bowling at you. I really don't mind.
You hit me once, I hit you back. I
He's bowling like my Auntie Annie when she'd had too much sherry to drink.
played over my head, then I set fire.
मैंने कहा बेटा बेटा होता है और बाप बाप होता है.